Thank you so much for tuning in to our final episode of our Food for Thought series with the one and only Dr. MJ. Dr. MJ, I am probably going to cry by the end of this, but I just want to say first and foremost that this has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm excited to find out who you have selected for our letter Z, 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 and and the quote that you selected as well. You did it. You did it. You opened up our world to a whole new library curated just the most amazing, incredible artists and authors and people that all of us need to be familiar with. So I'm gonna say more at the end of this, but thank you. Let's tap in to our letter Z and see who you've chosen.
Okay, I chose, of course, given our discussions about Alice Walker, I chose Zora Neale Hurston.
Yeah.
And since the passage in Alice Walker was about her finding her in the footnote of an anthropologist's book and finding that she was doing the research that Alice Walker was looking for, which was about, I guess Alice Walker was looking for knowledge about voodoo, and Zora Neale Hurston had written folk tales and also was an anthropologist and had also written about voodoo or had all of that. So this book is one of her anthropological books, and she goes to Jamaica and Haiti in the 1930s. And I think we've talked about different, African descendant and African spiritual practice throughout our time. And so, yeah, she goes there and she actually ends up engaging in the practice. So this is in the 1930s. She's recounting, I think here she's recounting being in Haiti and witnessing. So this was picked completely at random. I picked page 222 because we are February 2nd, 2022. And I'm just going to read it. And, I might not be able to explain it because I haven't actually read this book yet, but we'll see. We'll see what it says. All right, you ready?
Yes.
Down in the neighborhood of Port-au-Prince, behind St. Joseph's, I witnessed one of these simulated possessions. A man was crying, "Tell my horse," again and again and again, and defaming many persons. A girl approached. He called her Erzuli and shouted, "Erzuli, don't you remember I have connections with you for a cake?" The girl was chagrined no end and looked pathetic. One of the men took a hand and cried, "Shoot," as if he were shooing chickens. Immediately the faker started to run. He stopped after a step or two and looked about him and asked, "Who did that to me?" Everybody laughed. I asked why he seemed afraid. They explained that the majority of such characters are chicken thieves and they live in the fear of the police. They knew the nasty accusation against the girl was inspired by malice at being refused, so they knew the way to stop it and did. The mount moved on away looking like a wet chicken. A tragic case of a Guédé mount happened near Pont-Bédé. A woman known to be a lesbian was mounted one afternoon. The spirit announced through her mouth, "Tell my horse I have told this woman repeatedly to stop making love to the women. It is a vile thing and I object to it. Tell my horse that this woman promised me twice that she would never do such a thing again, but each time she has broken her word to me as soon as she could find a woman suitable for her purpose. But she has made love to women for the last time. She has lied to Guédé for the last time. Tell my horse to tell that woman I'm going to kill her today. She will not lie again." The woman pranced and galloped like a horse to a great mango tree, climbed it far up among the top limbs, and dived off and broke her neck. But the peasants believe that the things that mounts claim to see in the past and future are absolutely accurate. There are thousands of claims of great revelations. They're identical for the most part. However, with the claims that the believers and fortune tellers, they're identical for the most part with the claims that believers and fortune tellers make in the United States. I'm now intrigued. I mean, if you think about it, she's talking about the 1930s in Haiti, and she's talking about lesbians. And I mean, this is kind of a horrible story, but
yeah.
I guess, I mean, my takeaway from this is that spiritual practices are also used to harm people and to punish them within the social order. That's my takeaway from that.
Wow.
Since a lot of the stuff I've shared as well today has been about queer women, Black queer women, and anthologies of Black queer women.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, you know, I think the beauty of discovering somebody who wrote the stories of people around her back then is she's also writing about Black queer women's stories that, I mean, despite whatever that particular moment being horrific, like that's a history that, you know, a lot of people would deny exists. You know, a lot of people would say there's no lesbians in Africa, there's no lesbians in the Caribbean, this is all, you know, white people bringing it in. But in fact, you know, here's this woman in the 1930s telling you a story about how that was addressed back then, but existed. So that's the thing that struck me in this passage above all else.
Have you ever read a book that spoke about lesbians from a time prior to that, like before the 1930s?
Not black lesbians, no.
Wow.
Right, because a lot of those stories, who's gonna they wouldn't have been written, they wouldn't have been published because people wouldn't have been in a position to do that, right? So they definitely existed, but we don't, you know, who wrote them, that's a whole other story. Where that knowledge is stored, that's a whole other story. So
that's a whole quest that you should go on.
I want to read the book because I'm like, what, you know, what can she tell me about being an African American woman in Jamaica and I'm pretty sure she's another one who's probably bi or queer as well. So these very interesting. There's a great book for hidden histories of queer Black women. It's called Ride Us. It's Saidiya Hartman. Where are you? Well, just look up Saidiya Hartman.
Yeah.
And, there's just a lot of stories that we don't know about. So yes, Zora Neale Hurston.
Wow. Well, we are celebrating Zora Neale Hurston for our letter Z, and the book is Tell My Horse. So we are going to pause and be back with our closing remarks for this series. Thank you.